Welcome to the latest update for West Tigers Unite, a fan-based initiative trying to bring about change in both the West Tigers Football Club and the Holman Barnes Group. Today, we're lucky to be joined by a debenture holder of the Holman Barnes Group, John Hargrove. How are you, John?
Good, thanks, Gary.
I just wanted to start and ask about how you became a debenture holder of the Holman Barnes Group. What was that process to join that group that the Holman Barnes Group has?
I've been a member of the club ever since I was old enough to join the licensed club, and my father was a debenture holder and never a board member, but he was a debenture holder. And when he died, I applied to become a debenture holder in the position that he had been in. And after about a 2-year process where they were deciding what they do, the board then interviewed me and agreed to me becoming a debenture holder.
Have you been a board member of the Holman Barnes Group during that time? Have you been any more involved?
Yes. I was a board member until 2019
Yes.
for the 9 years prior to that.
Have you had any wider involvement with the Holman Barnes Group? What's your day-to-day kind of interaction with that group at the moment?
I go there occasionally for a beer and something to eat. And I still am a debenture holder, but we haven't had a meeting since October. I don't have any other current involvement other than discussion from time to time with some debenture holders and some now ex-board members.
Now, I think especially amongst the West Tigers fan base, but I think amongst probably a larger degree of the Holman Barnes Group membership, the venture holder system is a little clouded in a bit of mystique, and a lot of people don't really understand it. Can you explain to us what that debenture holder system is?
I'll do my best. And you're right, it is. Look, it's not something that's widely publicised, and most people are probably not interested until it comes to the sort of events that we've had recently. But when the club was established, the system was set up in the original constitution that there would be 20 people who would contribute £50 then each to help establish the club. And the idea was that that group would protect the heritage and culture of the club and ensure that rugby league was promulgated in the Western Suburbs area. As those people were all appointed for life. As they've died, they've been replaced by people again who were appointed for life. So I am a lifetime debenture holder. The only way that I would not be one would be if I resigned or if I was kicked off or I died. We had a governance review assisted by Clubs New South Wales in 2018, and it suggested a change to the system. And so any debenture holders who have been appointed since that time have been appointed for a 5-year term, which would normally be expected to continue unless that person was found not to be suitable. One of the reasons for creating the change was that we have had for a long period of time inactive debenture holders. So there was one person who never attended a meeting in all the time that I've been a debenture holder. And there were 2 others who stopped attending. One has since resumed and another one has still not engaged with the debenture system again. And that's a period of 15 or 20 years ago. So the change in the system was to, bring about the possibility of not renewing a debenture holder if they weren't participating, and B, to ensure that we had the full numbers. The the system was set up to protect the culture and heritage of the club. And so the people who are selected for that position, that's one of the criteria, that they're expected to be interested in ensuring that the club continues and it supports rugby league. The review in 2018 suggested that the two floor members and independents should interview applicants for new debentures when they became available, and that was adopted by the board. And so that's been the process up until just recently, where the current board changed it and took out the requirement for the two floor members to be there. So now it's independents and a debenture holder and a board nominated person who you would expect would also be a debenture holder. So it's changed back to something not all that dissimilar to what it was before.
Now, have you been involved in that selection process as your role when you were on the Holland Barnes Group board of selecting new debenture holders?
I was involved in it 20 years ago when debenture holders used to interview people and recommend to the board. So I was involved then, but under the system that was set up by the review in 2018, it was the two floor members who were on that with independents. I haven't had any involvement with selecting new debenture holders for, well, ever since about 2010.
And currently there's between 16 and 17 active debenture holders. Is that correct to your understanding?
Well, look, the Constitution says there can be up to 20, but what has happened since that time is that the two long-term debenture holders for life, died at the end of last year, and they haven't yet been replaced. There's one that's very ill, and he hasn't actively participated for a couple of years. And there's another one, as I mentioned earlier, who hasn't been involved for 15 or 20 years. So it's down to 16 active people at present, which means that to be selected by the debenture holders to become a director, you only need to get 9 of those votes.
So 9 votes to get selected. And
yeah,
is it $100 fee at this point in time to become a debenture holder?
Yeah, look, I think the $100 is irrelevant. And I've seen that in the media. People have commented on it. Yes, it is $100, but that's just because that's what it was back in 1955, and money had a different value then than it does now. But the purpose was to protect the heritage and culture and history of the club and the promulgation of rugby league. That still continues. And the people who are selected as debenture holders, that's what you would expect them to do.
Now, we spoke a little bit about the 5-year period for new debenture holders.
Yes.
That came in 2018. So,
yes.
So have we got to the point where we have debenture holders who have gone through a process of being renewed? And if we have, how does that process kind of operate?
Well, the nominations committee that was set up by that review has interviewed them, the current debenture holders, and everybody has been renewed. There hasn't been anybody rejected.
Yep. Now, this system was set up to, as you said, promote the culture and kind of put the ideals of the club first.
Yes.
How do you think that's worked over the past 60 years that it's been in place? And is it a system that's still working for the club?
Look, I've been a big supporter of it until fairly recently, because licensed clubs run the risk, if they don't have safeguards, that a group of people, like-minded people, could take over the club and the financial the finances of the club and run it for their own purposes. I actually observed that happen to St George Rugby Union Club many years ago. So it has served that purpose in that the debenture holders have been people who put the interests of the club first. And all clubs have some mechanism to protect their assets and their culture and their heritage. RSL clubs are controlled by the RSL sub-branch. A lot of rugby league clubs are controlled by the football club. There are ways that you can get that control to stop a takeover by somebody who may not have your same goals. I think there are probably better ways to do it now than our current system.
Do you feel that the current board of the Holman Barnes Group is supportive of the West Tigers?
Well, the current board is made up of 4 people, which is the bare quorum for meetings, because, as you would know, 3 people have been suspended from that board, including 1 debenture holder and 2 people who were elected by the general membership. The only thing I can go on there is the press release that came out, which wasn't attributed to anyone other than the board and administration of the Holman Barnes Group. They say they're committed to it. They say they're committed to the review. So I guess you can only take that on face value.
So you mentioned that the Holman Barnes Group recently removed 3 directors in Rick Wade, Tony Antriao, and Dave Gilbert, including the only 2 directors elected by the general membership.
Yes.
Do you agree with that action?
I have seen most of the documentation around it, and I believe that if there was a need for any penalty, the penalty that was imposed was extreme. I'm not sure that the actions that the 3 of them were accused of required the penalty that they've received, or for that matter, any other penalty. I find it difficult to believe that 4 people who include witnesses and accused can make a decision on that.
If the reason wasn't for the actions that the directors were accused of, do you have any idea of why this action has been taken against them?
I have some thoughts, but they're not ones that I'd like to share publicly. Other than the fact that there was a divide between the 4 people who are now on the board and the other 3 people. And it was about a number of things, one of which was the review. But the current board has come out and said that they believe in the review, so you can only take that at face value. What other reasons there could be, I guess, are just up to people to make their own minds on.
Have you seen the recommendations that came from the review into the West Tigers, the
Yes.
Barney Crawford report?
Yes. Yes.
Do you agree with those recommendations?
Yes.
You agree they should be implemented in full?
Yes.
And you think they would give West Tigers the best chance of success moving forward?
Yes.
Why do you think those recommendations would set the West Tigers up for success?
Look, again, I have to go into a bit of history here, but you'd be aware, and your members would be aware, that the West Tigers became a marriage of convenience between Western Suburbs Magpies and Balmain Tigers, proud foundation members of the Rugby League, 1908 members. And I don't think that anybody at that time was going to be perfectly happy with it. And then over the years, there's a lot of disharmony brought about by members, I think, on both sides, both the Magpie side and the Balmain side, trying to find fault with what was being done at West Tigers. I think it's unfortunate for the Magpies that the mascot that was chosen was a tiger, and that orange is such a dominant colour. So there's, often been criticism that Balmain are overrepresented and they don't put in the money, etc., etc. But the reality is that it is a very strong business, and it has a lot of followers. And anybody under 30 would see West Tigers as their team, not West Magpies or not Balmain Tigers. And I think that we all need to move on. I think there's too much backbiting from both groups, trying to find fault with the joint venture. Well, it's no longer a joint venture, but with the entity. And I think that if we can separate out West Tigers from the Holman Barnes Group, where obviously the financial interests of the Holman Barnes Group are protected and the heritage interests of West Magpies and Balmain Tigers are protected. If we can separate it out and let West Tigers go along and do their own thing and do it successfully, which I believe they can, and I think we're on the cusp of success, then I think West Tigers will be much more successful. I think you don't need people who may have other good qualities, but are not too knowledgeable about running rugby league, or even if they are, shouldn't be interfering in it. I think the entity, like any business, needs to be allowed to run itself and run itself successfully. And so that's why I think the recommendations of the Barnier Crawford review are very positive, and if implemented fully, I see West Tigers going from strength to strength.
And for me, that kind of separation between the ownership groups, and it is all the ownership groups, not just the Holman Barnes Group. It isn't an attack on the Holman Barnes Group, but that separation between the...
There's some very silly things said by members of the Balmain Tigers.
Yeah, very, very silly things. The statements about pulling out of the merger, all that sort of nonsense is damaging to the West Tigers brand.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And if we can get that separation, what I think it allows for, because I think there's a very big difference between the skill set of running the Holman Barnes Club, between running the Balmain Tigers, which is basically just a football club now. I think the skill sets between those compared to running a modern day sporting organisation, that they're quite different now, John.
I agree.
And I think that separation is the best way for the entire ownership group to set up what is a really large asset. It's the best way to set up for success into the future.
Agreed.
Both the Holman Barnes Group and the West Tigers, they're going to be linked into the future. Hopefully for the next 100 years, the Holman Barnes Group and the West Tigers are linked. Do you see a bright future for both those groups?
Yes, so long as we can get some of these differences behind us, and so long as people from the two entities that joined to form West Tigers can get past worrying about the size of an emblem or the quantity of colour, or the fact that people in the media will refer to the entity as Tigers rather than West Tigers. It's just the shorthand they use, and it's unfortunate. And I can understand people from, the side that I come from, West Magpies, being upset by that, but there's not much we can do about it. And I think we've got to accept that West Tigers is an entity which we own, and which can be successful if we handle it properly. And I think that West Tigers can be very, very successful, and particularly as we've got the inner city drawing area of Balmain and the Campbelltown area. I think we can be very successful there. And the Holman Barnes Group has some very good assets in West Sports Club and the Markets Club at Flemington and West Ashfield. So from a financial point of view, there's no reason why Holman Barnes Group, if run properly, can't be successful as well.
Now, we spoke a little bit earlier about the debenture system needing to be changed or the possibility of it being changed.
Yes.
What changes would you like to see that system? What do you think would set the Holman Barnes Group up to best run in the modern world today?
Look, I believe that there have been at least one complaint, if not more, to the Independent Liquor and Gaming Authority about the events that have occurred at Holman Barnes in recent months. And I suspect that there will be some change. I think the members deserve to have more of a say. I would like to see some emphasis on the skills that are needed to become a director rather than the allegiances that people have. But at the same time, we have to protect the heritage. We have to protect the heritage of West Magpies. We have to protect the heritage of the Leagues Club itself and the Sports Club and the Markets Club. But there are ways that can be done that do occur in other organisations. I'm not an expert on that, but I think there are plenty of people who could provide some guidance there. We do have a system at Holman Barnes where certain members have a higher class of voting rights than others, and they're people who have been a member for a period of, I think it's 3 years.
Yeah, it's 3 years.
They can apply to become a general member, and that has to be approved by the board. So if we made the election from any general members who wanted election to the board open to any person who was a general member, then surely that would go a long way to protecting the interests and assets of the Holman Barnes Group. So that could be one system, but I'm sure there are a myriad of systems that could be considered. I'm not sure which is the best, and I've got no personal view on it. I just believe that the debenture system is now probably not fit for purpose anymore.
Now, I've got one final question that I'll finish up with in a moment, but is there anything else you would like to add to our conversation, John?
Only that I'd like the Holman Barnes Group to get past this current problem. I'd like people from both sides of the West Tigers entity to stop sniping at it and its actions, and let the vast majority of fans that have embraced West Tigers have their football team that's run by people who know what they're doing and without the interference of outside people or groups.
I can't disagree with you, John. I think setting the West Tigers up for the best success is following through on those recommendations that Crawford and Barney handed down last year. Now, my last question, most important question of the entire podcast, John.
Yes.
Can the West Tigers make the top 8 in 2025?
I believe they can. I don't think they've had the cattle in the last few years, and all of the external events that have been taking place has been disruptive. And there were games where they showed where we could be if we can put it all together. I think with the right people around Benji, he'll be successful. And I think the new players this year are going to add a lot, not only just to the on-field performance, but the attitude of players towards training and working together to get a good result. So, Yeah, look, it's going to be hard. You never know. Some teams that you think might be in the bottom half um, can come out and be a lot better than you expect, and some that are going to be that have been in the top half and you expect to remain there can come out and go badly. Um, so it's very difficult. You know, we could improve out of sight, but so could some of the other teams that have been in the bottom half, and so it might be more difficult. But look, I think in that 7 to 9 range is very, very realistic.
Well, hopefully you're spot on, mate, because it's been a long time for West Tigers fans outside of the top eight. It's like 12, 13 years now. So hopefully we get to see that this year. I really want to thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for giving up your time this morning.
Thanks, Gary. Pleasure for
Uh,
me too.
no problem, mate. And just a reminder to everyone, West Tigers Unite is a group of West Tigers fans, social media, podcasts coming together to try and bring about change for the West Tigers. It's not about West versus Balmain. It's none of that rubbish. It's about providing what is best for the West Tigers. We've got a petition up. It's on all our socials. If you go to West Tigers Unite Facebook page, you'll find the link to the petition. Get on there, sign it. We're pushing for change at our great club and setting our great club up for the next 50 years. Thanks, John.
Thank you.